The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Pilate asked Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered, "Do you ask this on your own, or did others tell you about me?" Pilate replied, "I am not a Jew, am I? Your own nation and the chief priests have handed you over to me. What have you done?" Jesus answered, "My kingdom is not from this world. If my kingdom were from this world, my followers would be fighting to keep me from being handed over to the Jews. But as it is, my kingdom is not from here." Pilate asked him, "So are you a king?" Jesus answered, "You say that I'm a king. For this I was born, for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone who belongs to the truth listens to my voice." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Once upon a time, there was this very famous sculptor who was commissioned to build this beautiful sculpture of Christ the King. As is imagined, Jesus to be the triumphant king who was standing tall, majestic, and triumphant, with hands raised, giving praise to God and eyes looking to heaven. And that's exactly how he envisioned it, and he had finished the clay model. And the priest who had actually commissioned it for his monastery came in. He was very, very happy with the way it turned out. Well, the following day, he realized that the downpour, this heavy rain, has seeped through the ceiling, and then the water has actually damaged the sculpture. So it was no longer the majestic-looking Christ it was. It was rather the hands the raised into heaven, so to speak, has been lowered. And even the head was lowered to be looking down. And even his face looked a little droopy, so to speak. And that's when the priest who came to investigate and carefully examining, he said, "You know what? I would like this even better than the one that you had before. Because this is how I envision Christ to be. Christ is compassionate King who always loves us and looks down on us with compassion and love." In our world today, we have rulers. We have prime ministers. We have presidents. We have had kings. And even though we have kings and queens don't have the same kind of authority and power. But this is how we understand the word king. In the American Sign Language, the letter K and tap on the shoulder and to the other side of the torso. This is letter K and add the word to rule. This is what kings do. Kings rule over their subjects. When the people of God, who are always loved and protected by God, who said to them, "I am your king." But people have rejected God and said, "We want to be just like everybody else. We want a king." So God agreed. "I have appointed Saul to be your king." But this is how it's going to go. He's going to be selfish. He's going to make your sons to go and fight his battle. And your sons will be busy making weapons for war. And your daughters will become servants. They're going to cook, they're going to clean, they will be perfume makers. And the best of your land, your vineyard, and the best of your servants, they'll all be taken by the king. And everything that you have, you'll have to pay taxes. This is how it's going to go. And the people said, "Well, we still want to have our king." Fast forward to the time of Jesus. What kind of king was Jesus? He didn't have an army. He didn't have earthly wealth, so to speak. In the eyes of the world, he had nothing. Hence, Pilate asking him, "So are you a king? And if you are a king, what kind of king are you?" Do you know what the American Sign Language is for Jesus? Mark of the nail. The one who's crucified. That's who Jesus is. Instead of ruling over us, he came to serve. He came to sacrifice. And why do we sacrifice? Because of love. Often I talk to parishioners who said, my son, my daughter just got married and they just had kids of their own. And then they're asking, was it this difficult? We haven't had good sleep for weeks. That sounds about right, right? You make sacrifice because you love. God told them, the people of God, and all of us, to be the citizens of God's kingdom. And how to become the citizens of God's kingdom? By living according to the commandment of the Lord. And as a result, what's going to happen to us is, we're fulfilling the very definition of holiness, which means to be set apart. Not to be conformed to the world, not to live like everybody else does, not wanting what the world desires, but living according to what God is telling us to do, being set apart for that holy purpose. And another way of understanding the word holy is the composite word sacrificium. Sacrificium, to make holy. When you sacrifice, you consecrate and you make that holy. Out of the entire commandment, when Jesus was talking and was asked, how do you sum up the entire commandment? How do you sum up the law? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, with your strength and your might, and love neighbor as yourself. So to love. And that's how Jesus ruled over us, with love. When it comes to love, someone that comes to my mind who, is absolutely by far the best example of someone who loved sacrificially is Mother Teresa. So she decided to dedicate her whole life serving the poor, homeless, the sick, abandoned. She has done that very well. And then there's a story told of how one day the economy was very bad and people are starving because of a heavy, this drought has been prolonged. The kids were hungry and they were crying because they were so hungry. So Mother Teresa decided to go to the streets begging. And understandably, not many people had things to spare. And then there was this man, a Hindu gentleman, who was at the shop. So Mother Teresa walked in and asked this gentleman if he can give some kind of alms or spare some food. And this man, who really didn't know who Mother Teresa was and didn't like her, when Mother Teresa placed her hand, instead of giving anything, he actually spat on her hand. She just wiped that and then turned the other hand and said, well, I accept what you have given me. Now will you give something for the poor children? This man, now feeling he's ashamed of his conduct, he apologized and he gave food for Mother Teresa to take and to bring home to share with the children. Her sacrifice, her pride didn't really matter because her love for the children was stronger than whatever kind of humiliation she might have to endure through. Same thing. Jesus offered his life for all of us because he loves us. In the same way, Jesus is commanding us to be like him, who ruled over people, not with authority and power, but with love. So let us love those who have been entrusted to all of us, so that we could be like Christ the King.